Hi everyone, welcome to the Change Podcast. My name is Bautista and I'm here today with Katie Brennan. She's running for State Assembly to represent Hoboken and Jersey City. Katie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Ron. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, this is exciting. I've known Katie for over 10 years, and so when she told me she was running for State Assembly, I was super excited, as you can tell, and I said, hey, let's do this. The one reason that I support Katie is because it matters where the money comes from for candidates. And I've told this before, in the progressive movement, there are no bosses. If there are bosses, that's not a progressive movement, that is not a grassroots movement. And really what comes down to is who is the candidate, in this case, Katie, going to respond to. And she's going to respond to the neighbors, because the money comes from the neighbors, because the votes come from the neighbors. And she's coming directly to the neighbors to have these conversations with you. And now, just to amplify a little bit, that's why I'm having this conversation with Katie. So Katie, tell us about your race. What's it looking like now, and why are you running for office here locally?
Yeah, so let's go in backwards order about the race. This is the first time, quite literally ever, in 100 years that this race is competitive. And that's because it used to be that the machine bosses almost completely controlled who was going to win and where they were on the ballot. That is now unconstitutional, and so for the first time ever, you have real choices, and there's 6 people running, and you pick 2, but I'm one of only 2 that are running without those bosses that you were just talking about, because at the end of the day, it's you, the voter, that should be my boss. You and thousands of other people hire me, then you're my boss, you hold me accountable. That's it, no one else.
Yeah, no, and it comes down to the issues too, right?
Yes.
So it's not so much, hey, politically what happens, it's that the politics, and many of us now know this, affects you directly, especially at the state level, especially at the local level. So when we're complaining about, and with enough reason, that the rent is too damn high, then the lobbyists are trying to raise real estate prices and real estate in Hoboken, like we did with the referendum last year. When there's issues with lack of funding for our schools, all these issues, they can be addressed, and many times they're not addressed because there is a party boss behind it, a political boss behind it, that's saying no, because that goes against their financial interest, the boss's financial interest. To those policies, when it comes to nonprofit apartment units, when affordable housing, first, what is your background on it, and second, what can we do about it at
we can do a lot. My background is affordable housing. I spent my whole career trying to make sure that people can afford to stay and live here in Hoboken and in Jersey City. So a few things. The past few years, property taxes and rents have jumped a lot, and Trenton had a huge piece of that. They really gutted a lot of our school funding, and then the cities had to cover the gap, and that directly affects you. So that's number one. That is a formula that we can fix, our state legislators made, and we can change it back. Number 2, all the new development that we see around here, none of it is going to have any rent protections for 30 years. That is a state law. It does not have to be that way, and we should end it, because we can't be having our rent raised 20, 30, 40% year over year. There's a lot of things where when that does happen, what kind of protections do you have? How can you challenge it? Making sure that people have an attorney and legal aid, so when there are shady landlords or people that are bad actors, that they have that support. There are also big corporate landlords that are colluding and fixing the rents, and that's a lot too, that we need to move over the finish line in Trenton so that people stop getting screwed here in Hoboken.
Yeah, and this is an important point too. When we had the referendum in Hoboken, that thank you voters, you voted overwhelmingly, 72% of the vote, to say, hey, we are taking care of our neighbors. No matter if you're a rent control unit or not, you belong here, you should be here, you are part of this community. The grandma that's not going to increase their income the following year, that is on a fixed income, the families that are trying to stay here and be part of the Hoboken Public School District. We said, no, we want to keep these families, we want people to be able to afford to live here. when you ask which politicians were supporting this, you see right here is the candidate. Katie Brennan was knocking doors with the advocates. Was knocking doors with us. Was on the ground. Was also talking policy. It's not just saying no. It's saying, wait, these calculations that the lobbyists is saying, they're wrong. They're trying to sell you something that is actually going to affect us all negatively. And so, that's just a shout out to you. It matters when people who run for office are doing the advocacy on the goals, because we're getting results even before she got elected. Also, it's never, I always say, with the advocates we're doing the work, because if it was just Katie, if it was just me, it doesn't get done. We need to build those coalitions of neighbors that will show up, speak up, build that leadership, and really attack it in different angles. So thank you for having been part of that as well.
Thanks, Ron.
And now, school funding is a big issue that comes up. And I've spoken to people in the school boards, parents who are very involved both in Jersey City and in Hoboken, and something that they've spoken about clearly was our schools are not being fully funded. Now, many times those schools have done great programs. I was I'm a Hoboken High alum. The school that was, back when I graduated in 2004, it was way different than, the school that is now. There was one debate team that I was at, now there's 3. But there's so much investment in infrastructure that Hoboken needs, that Jersey City needs, that should come from the state, because then the financial burden doesn't fall only on the property taxes, but it really is able to spread out based on the people who are making more versus just everybody pays for something. That education really helps all of us to lift us all up, not just in the short term, but also in the long term. So tell us about what you've heard on the street, and also what you're planning to do once you get to Trenton.
This comes up every day and at almost every door that I'm at. And I really see school funding and affordability as inextricably tied together. So in Jersey City specifically, we lost $250 million overnight and annually. And as that keeps going and it keeps getting cut, they had to make the property taxes, which also gets passed on to the renters, carry that entire burden. That's what made up for it. And that was because the state decided, you know what, we don't think that you need this anymore. And they didn't recognize that we have a ton of English as a second language learners. We still have half our kids on free and reduced lunch, and they act like all the business on the waterfront is our own personal wealth. Just like when a housing law is not working for us, we fix it. When the school funding formula isn't working for us, we fix it. So that is the number one thing we need to do, because we both need to fix our school funding, and it will impact the affordability of Hoboken and Jersey City, but also the school facilities themselves. So this is a big one. Right now, Hoboken and Jersey City, they have to take cues from the state. The School Development Authority says this is what you get, either to fix your roof or for a new school. And if you look around, you'll see that there's a lot of new buildings. What does the School Development Authority have planned for us? They've got one pre-K in Jersey City planned and maybe enough money for about a roof. That's it, which is crazy. Like, where are all these kids gonna go to school? And then a lot of the schools we do have are, even if they're doing great, they're 100 years old and they need a lot of facilities infrastructure. We have to demand that the School Development Authority is funded.
All right, Katie, something I've been advocating here locally has been to have more nonprofit apartment units. And that I use that term because the way I see it, we need housing that helps everybody, right? So people of all incomes, all ages, all abilities. However, there is also a homelessness crisis, right? There is, there has been an increase in homelessness in Hudson County. And then we have seen also great entities like the Hoboken Shelter that provide services, but also the Hoboken Community Center, right? The former YMCA on Washington Street. That's why I said nonprofit apartment units, right? And so with those nonprofit apartment units, we need to provide that support, and that funding is very limited, and it's very tough to tackle it at the local level, like at the city level. That's when legislators like you come in. First, what is your experience around that topic, and also what are you going to do about it when you get to the assembly?
Yeah, it's pretty extensive. So there's a term you hear sometimes that housing first, or housing is healthcare. And really what that means is it's hard to do really anything else if you're worried about having a roof over your head. And so when we think about, we're in Church Square Park right now, and I know that there are a lot of people that are experiencing homelessness. It is quite literally cheaper to make sure that someone has a roof over their head and even a social worker services than it is for them to end up in the shelter or the hospital or the jail even once. Even once. We know that when we provide that housing, then of course they're not getting picked up by the jail. They're not ending up in the hospital because, you know, shock, living outside is really bad for your health. And so it's of course way better for the people, it's better for the community, and it's better for the taxpayer. So that's something that I worked on both at the county and at the state. So last time I was at the state of New Jersey, we did a program where we were getting hospitals to directly invest with nonprofits like you're talking about, create affordable housing, and they would have units, apartment units for people that were those high frequency users of those systems. And that ended up being the largest influx of private dollars into affordable housing New Jersey has ever seen. So that's the kind of thing of, you know, getting systems to talk together is hard, but it is so worth it, and that's really what we need.
Yeah, it's a lot of coalition building, right?
That's right.
And so it's never going to be just one legislator, one county commissioner, hopefully in the future. But even thinking, you know, you need somebody that already knows how to manage properties like the Hoboken Community Center, that also has food bank, right? Like, and that provides, you know, food to people in need. But you know, that also provides housing. They have more, and so they need more of the housing, more of the funding dollars for the housing. You need that, you know, immediate help, like with the shelter, like you mentioned. You need that, and I was also saying, like, you know, that mental health component to it. You know, we have community, we have social workers. We need, besides the social workers, is the services that social workers can connect them to.
Yes.
And that means more investment in those services. Because what we have seen, and listen, I've been in Hoboken for a long time, and there are some people who we've known for many years that they have mental health issues and that they need that help.
Yes.
And that help kind of, you know, fell through also during the pandemic, right? Which is why we have such an exacerbation of that issue. Yes. And so, you know, just thinking about that, you know, how we should really be focusing on it. And I'm happy that you are somebody an expert that has been involved in it, that has built those coalitions. The important part here too is by voting for Katie is that you know, now it's not just the knowledge, but it's also the vote and the advocacy and the megaphone of being an elected official that doesn't take money from real estate developers, that doesn't take money from or the influence from political bosses to do the right thing. Could you remind us real quick, what's the date for the election?
The primary election is on June 10th. June 10th of this year. Early voting is June 3rd through June 8th, and if you vote by mail, you've probably already received it. And if you haven't, go to vote.hcnj.us. So again, if you need vote by mail or you haven't gotten it, you've got until May 20th to request it. Early voting, June 3rd through June 8th, and the big election day is June 10th.
Now, after that commercial, since we still got you, there's a big influence in our state, which is transportation.
Yeah.
I mean, we are in Hoboken and in Jersey City. Both cities rely heavily on mass transit. Yes. We have NJ Transit, and which you know, really answers to the state officials. Right. Hence our conversation with Katie. And then we have the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, who answers to the state of New Jersey and the state of New York. What are some key issues that you've heard on the ground, and what can you do about it?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. almost everyone here takes transit in one form or another. And I know that the Port Authority and NJ Transit are just behemoth entities, but that doesn't mean we can't hold them accountable. You know, for example, people are really concerned about path service because we know that ridership is back up to pre-pandemic levels, but there's more and more people moving here, and it's really hard on nights and weekends. So here's an example. You can love congestion pricing, you can hate congestion pricing, but either way, the governor had a chance to get $100 million of dedicated transit funding into our system, and he turned it down so we could keep fighting about it. Especially with federal resources really scarce right now, that would have been a lot more PATH trains on the weekend. That could have been a lot more 126 buses in Hoboken. That is the kind of thing that we need, and I did not see people speaking up about it, or our legislators speaking up about it. I hear about the frequency of the PATH nights and weekends. I also hear about the bus routes and the bus crowding, because actually more people take the bus than they do the PATH into work. So more 126s, really looking at the routes. In Jersey City, there's a lot of routes that have just disappeared, or things that are ineffectual. If you live in the Heights and you want to get downtown Jersey City, there is one bus, it only runs once an hour, and it does a funny loop, and so you never even know where it is. Or you'll get multiple buses all in a row stacked together, and then sometimes they just disappear or pass you by. That's called bus stacking. That's not even a money issue, it's just operational. And with legislators that are determined to hold our systems accountable and keep them transparent, those are fixable things.
And something that we haven't seen really an additional investment in is the light rail system either.
Yes.
We need a station up in the northern part of
Yes.
Hoboken. And so that's something that directly can be influenced from the state assembly, so that we can get the funding and the prioritization from the for NJ Transit to build it.
Maybe the Hudson-Bergen light rail could actually go to Bergen.
I mean, wouldn't it be an achievement
What a dream.
if the light rail actually lived up to its name? So
yeah, and actually what we also hear is, okay, so the light rail going to Uptown Hoboken for sure and beyond. Also, there's a big push right now to get the PATH train to go to the airport, so that people can easily get from here and Jersey City to Newark Airport as well.
Yeah, I just got back from Chicago, and for some reason I was like, oh, let me check on Google Maps, and because of traffic, I was gonna get to the airport a lot faster than I would have been taking an Uber. So that's the convenience one, because the people who get stuck in traffic, would have less people drive there.
Right.
And also because then the people who need to get there fast can take the mass transit. And one of the things was that, like, I just took one train. I didn't have to go get off somewhere else to be able to then go to and also it was a lot more affordable than if you take.
It goes right there.
Yeah. So that would be a huge difference. But those are projects that, as we know, and listen, I work at a big firm, no matter whether there is a private entity or a public entity, for anything to get done, we have to start advocating for it now in order to get done. So some things we're going to address is faster. Some things we're going to address that is going to take longer. But we need to talk about it all right now, because that's how we make impacts in our community. And then something we have is also the expansion that the governor of New Jersey had been promoting with the turnpike. And so God. I did see you do a cool video about it, so I want everybody else to hear about it right now as well.
Sure. So there is this absolutely outrageous proposal to expand the lanes on the New Jersey Turnpike, cutting right through Jersey City, leading up to the Holland Tunnel. Except the Holland Tunnel isn't getting widened, and the streets in New York aren't getting widened. So basically, you just have what I called it, a fire hose into a straw. And we know from all of the data, and I'm an urban planner, it's called induced demand. We know that widening that highway, all it's gonna do is bring more congestion, more smog, more pollution, more traffic, and then more giant trucks getting off the highway and cutting through Jersey City and Hoboken. And the kicker is that it's going to cost $11 billion. $11 billion. That is so much money that could be going into Hudson-Bergen Light Rail and the PATH and buses.
Yeah, and that's, we I hear people talking about it all the time too, is the traffic congestion so many times in Hoboken is people passing through. So if the congestion happens in the Lincoln Tunnel, they're gonna go, or in the Holland Tunnel, people are gonna go into the Lincoln Tunnel, and we are all gonna be impacted by this. And we saw that very similar impact with the NJ Transit fossil fuel plant that they were planning to do in Kearney. Again, about the proximity of these projects. That was only going to be within 3 miles radius from Hoboken and Jersey City. So even though we think, oh, that's in Kearney, the air pollution comes directly to us and it goes directly to Jersey City. So when we think, what do we have state politicians, state candidates, state positions and legislators, that's exactly why, because these are issues that affect us all, that we need that to build those coalitions. And this is what this is all about, is building these type of coalitions with myself, with advocates, with neighbors, so we can address those issues that impact us all.
Yeah, we don't live on an island. We all work together. And if you're seeing congestion here, where is it coming from, right? And that is why we can't act, or we can't just be fighting here with ourselves. We really need to be building statewide coalitions and powers to get things done that benefit us here.
Yes, that talks about affordable housing, nonprofit apartment units, mental health, homelessness, all of that. Those are regional. And when we address it on a regional level with regional dollars, then we're able to bring actual solutions to it. And so anything else any other issues that you've seen on the field that you would like to talk about?
Yeah, the thing that's kind of the giant elephant in the room is the federal administration right now. And that's something that a lot of people are worried about. And my message there is the state is our first line of defense for that. You know, when we hear about terrible things happening elsewhere in the country, whether it's book bans or access to reproductive health, that's all state level, right? And so here in New Jersey, we've got it pretty good, but a lot of it isn't actual laws, it's just directives. So what do I mean by that? There's sort of a suggestion that we shouldn't cooperate with ICE. It's not a law. There are a lot of protections around like reproductive health, but it's not actually codified. There's so much that we can do at the state level, because what happens when the funding gets gutted? What happens when they do come after us, which is a when and not an if, and we really need the state to be a lot more aggressive about protecting us now.
No, that's so important. And so with that, I would like to remind everybody to vote on June 10th.
June 10th.
That's a primary. So the importance also of this conversation is to show that not all Democratic candidates are created equal, right? So the origin of power matters. The way that political bosses influence those candidates and the candidates that they are supporting with dollars, with PACs, matters. And this is about really connecting candidates, everyday people like Katie Brennan, with neighbors like you. So make sure, where can they find you on social media? Could you give us
Yeah, you can find me at katiebrennan4nj.com. You can find me at katiebrennan32 on Instagram, and I'm on Blue Sky as well. And also just call me, 201-898-0605. I really truly want to hear what's most important to you.
Yeah, so it's all about what issues you care about and how Katie's going to address them. So make sure you reach out, let us know. We're always down for a coffee, so looking forward to more conversations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Appreciate it.